All right, we should be live. Incredible day, family. Welcome to the Your Perspective Matters podcast for the second time. um, we This is a personal growth podcast where I revamped it from changing from just me wanting to make everybody else uncomfortable, but making it more personal by intentionally making myself uncomfortable as well as my guest and my host. So we're going to be this is not an interview, family. I need y'all to know that, right? We're going to be completely raw and transparent on today, which is going to be dope because I met Mariah through my podcast host Jazz, and we had an episode, and I'm like, dang, Mariah is valuable. Like she lit for sure. So I'm excited to have her on the podcast again. And this definitely won't be the last. But Mariah, please introduce yourself. Tell us how you feeling and what you got going on for yourself.
What's up, y'all? So, as you know, I'm Mariah. I go by Raya mostly online. I have a YouTube channel called Raya's Rocky Road, which is kind of like I always say coming of age when I describe it, but I guess coming of age is more so like what teenage years, but coming of age in your 20s. So just giving you guys that real raw, like in between, or like filling in the in between of the social media kind of content creator lifestyle where the content creator typically goes missing when things are bad and then they're just all in your face when things are good. But I record everything. So my good days, my bad days, my better days, my worst days, those are all in there. Speaking of the topic, I don't know if he's mentioned it yet, but just having to move from Atlanta to Texas, that's all in there. I have everything in there just to show people that like real life happens. And like somebody told me the other day, oh, you what she say, something along the lines of like, oh, I see you've been lit on IG. I'm glad things are going better for you. And it's like, just because things look like they're going well on Instagram, please don't come to me like they're like, girl, you don't know what's going on. Like my bank
Yeah.
account is in the negatives right now.
Oh
Like,
my
what are you
God.
talking about? You know what I mean? So just kind of touching on the real life topics and reminding people that you're not in this stuff alone. And while everyone wants to make their garden look glitz and glam, everybody's got some gophers and some unwanted insects in their garden, so
Right.
that's what my YouTube channel is about. I also have a podcast called Real Tea with Raya, which talks about real life topics. Once again, it's really a safe space for people who they want to talk about things that people don't really like to talk about or shed light on, from like homelessness to deaths in the family, whether it be like terminating pregnancies, whatever it is that you want to talk about that you don't have a safe space to talk about, and you
Mhm.
probably should do it in therapy. You can come do it on my podcast. So that's kind of what my podcast is about. I'm also on different apps like Instagram, which is one of my main apps, TikTok, like I was telling you about Lemon 8, which is kind of like a cross between Instagram and Pinterest, if you will. You see all types of stuff on there. It's kind of like I feel like it's the next big thing. So if you are a content creator and you want to get grabbed on an app, I would definitely check out Lemonade, because I know like opportunity windows for TikTok is kind of closing, Instagram kind of closing. I won't say YouTube is closing. I feel like YouTube is forever.
Right.
But definitely check out Lemonade if you're trying to get pop in and gain a whole bunch of followers. I gained like 9 followers by accident on there. So I'm like, if I actually tried, what would happen? But
Right.
yeah, definitely check out Lemonade. But yeah, I'm all over social media. I'm always running my mouth. I also write music, trying to start working on an album. So I do a lot of stuff.
Okay.
But check out Instagram and you'll probably find links to everything. So
Okay. I see you. So
yeah.
I wanted to go to the icebreaker, but I'm compelled to ask you something different because this is we just we're gonna be transparent on here. We're gonna be completely honest, and I know for me starting my podcast in literally I want to say the first week or so, it was amazing. I was super excited and everything, and then after that first month. I started realizing, dang, what makes me different? And like I battled this on and off cycle of doing a podcast and not doing it because I was trying to figure out what made me different, right? And it's not just, oh, it's just me, I'm just different. Nah, it really has to be, what would be your theme? And I'm saying this because what you're saying in terms of your podcast is very similar to mine, right? Um, but I want to know, like, or for the people rather, if they was to tap into Real Tea with Mariah or Raya, right? What, Mariah or Raya? Which one is it?
Raya, real tea with Raya.
Real Tea with Raya, but tap into that family for sure. But if they was to tap into Real Tea with Raya, what would make them different versus tapping in with my podcast or tapping in with somebody else's podcast that talks about real life issues?
I don't know. I think that for me, and I guess this is more so perspective of other people versus myself, but people have always told me that I'm very personable, so they're able to really relate to something. They're able to understand it, and then I also admire the way that I explain things. My friends, she always says like, Mariah, you and these analogies, because I've always had an analogy for something where you can kind of really be like, dang, that's facts, or that really makes sense. But I think that also just, I don't know, not even to say that it's different than your podcast. I think the similarity of bringing other guests in to kind of help develop the show and help develop the fact that like we're all going through something.
Right,
I think that's another thing that makes it a little bit different. And then also just knowing that our gifts through God can look the same or feel similar, but we can't reach the same audience. And I
ooh,
think that's something that kind of was touched on in the YouTube video you had sent me a few days ago, of just like there's gonna be people who can walk into the strip club and be able to witness to somebody about God, whereas there's some people that would never go into the strip club because they believe in God.
right.
So you get what I'm saying? Just kind of knowing that I have the keys to doors that you could never unlock, the same way that you have the keys to doors I could never unlock because of who you are and because of what God has put in you. You know what I mean? So not even say like you don't have the juice. You may have the juice, but I may
Yep,
have some cranberry juice. You have orange juice. You know what I mean?
I
We
love
both
it.
got some juice,
I love it.
different juice. So that's kind of my way of viewing it. So and then also like male and female, there's also that aspect
Okay,
of people being like, well, she's a girl, I can relate, blah blah, whatever. So I think those are some of the things that make it a little different.
so if I smile super hard, it's because you're getting saucy, and that's exactly what you're doing. You was getting saucy. It's not even like 10 minutes in, like you really going crazy. But I that is so powerful because and I think I spoke about this briefly on one of my prior episodes. Was I released the control or effort of wanting to impact the world, right? That used to be my thing. Like, I'm gonna impact a million people, and I'm gonna impact all these. But the fact of the matter is, you will die trying to impact the whole world. Your focus is to only impact or be connected or steward over the people that is connected to you, right? Just like how you said that we have different audiences. Like, you come on my podcast, right? And then people are going to be able to relate to some things that I could never, I could say the same thing, but they're not going to get it until Mariah comes on. Then it's like, oh my God. And then the same thing on the other side. Like, if I would once I go on your podcast, you're gonna be telling these people like, yo, you need to get your house in order. They're not gonna listen because it's not that you said the wrong stuff. You were just meant to sow the seed. So now I come into play and I say the same thing and they get it because I was connected to them without even realizing that, hey, I needed to get in this room to give my perspective on the same thing and say it the same way, but they just gonna get it from me.
No, that's facts. And like I'm the type of person which I don't want it to sound cocky,
Hmm.
but it might sound cocky. But I have a hard time meeting people that I can connect with or can get something from. I feel like I tend to
Mm.
be the person in my friendships and relationships where I'm just like, you just regurgitated something I told you on a different day to me as advice for me. Or like for example, the other day, my friends which I guess this is my bad because bad timing. But my
Right.
friend was expressing some concerns that she was having with her friends, blah blah blah. We kind of got to the end of it, a little bit, sort of, kind of, and then I was like, "Yeah, you guys, I've actually been having a hard time with something." And one of the group people in the group chat said, "Oh, like what is it?" And I was like, "Well, I feel like I've dropped my self awareness. Like I feel like I'm lacking self awareness recently." They didn't
Mm.
even acknowledge my message. You know what I
Wow.
mean? And I don't think it was on purpose, but it just goes to show, like, I would have never missed that, or I would have remembered to come back to it.
Right.
But I'm just very used to having a hard time connecting with people, or like I said, getting something from people. And I remember for our first initial meeting and podcast, like I definitely remember being like, this guy's got something that I can actually take away. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Which is a really big deal to me because, like I said, it's very difficult for me to find people where I'm like, you can actually water some seeds, or plant some seeds. Whereas
Right.
other times in more worn relationships, if that makes sense, I'm like, I have to be the brain in this, and that's just what it is.
Yeah. I feel that it's. I was telling one of my passengers the other day. I'm like, you have to learn how to what's the saying? If you're the smartest person in the room, get a different circle. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's so important because you are only as valuable as, well, not 100%, right? But for the most part, you are only as valuable, or you can only grow as far as who you are connected to in terms of who you're hanging around the most. And
Yeah.
I had to realize that in many of my circles, I'm not gonna say I'm super smart, but like I've been in circles where I'm not learning from those people. So I
Exactly.
intentionally, excuse me, I intentionally say, you know what? I have to get in the rooms. I have to get in the rooms that I want to be silent because I could talk. Like I'm a super talker now. I'm a person that has so much value. I just want to. I can't shut up. I got to give you the value. But when I'm in the room
Right.
where I'm just learning, I'm just like, okay,
Let
and
me
I'm
take some
taking
notes.
notes. You feel me?
Yeah.
So it's
And then
that.
that's like a really good feeling. Like I went to this social worker mixer the other day, and like everybody there has either a master's, a doctorate, a business, whatever, something that I didn't have. And it
Mm,
definitely felt good to finally be able to ask questions and,
mm,
like you said, take notes. And I'm asking everybody, you got Instagram? You got Instagram? Like I need to add them so I can make sure I can pull them up later to
that's
ask more
fire.
questions. You know what I mean? And it felt great to be able to do that, or to feel like I could get advice, because it's like so many times I'm like, yeah, I really want to go back for my master's, and I'm talking to people who ain't got no degree, so they're like, oh, that's cool, like, yeah, girl, it's
Right.
great. Like, you got something to add to that? No, okay, cool. So it was definitely really nice, and I hear you on that.
That is crazy. That is that's bananas to really like it's such a crazy thing, like, and I want to know your perspective on this because um like, let's talk about the importance of getting in the rooms, right? Cuz and I had a conversation with another one of my passengers, which I think I'm going to definitely start recording my conversations with my passengers for sure. But
Yes,
I
please
was telling
do.
them, I'm like, I forgot how it started, but I was telling them, like, man, the one thing that changed my life was getting in the rooms because I realized I used to be around some friends that all we would do was talk about girls, talk about talk about the money we would like to have, and play video games. That's it. And sports. That's it. That's all we was doing every single day. Video games, sports, girls. That's it. And I wanted the money that I was talking about, but we never talked about actually getting the money. So I had to
Like
separate
how?
from, yeah, like, how are we gonna, like, no, no, oh yeah, I want $1 million. I wanna, no, how are we gonna get this goal, you know? So what I did was I realized that when you change your circle, you change the information that surrounds you. And that was so powerful for me because the moment I did that, I got a job. I got a second job. I started working for myself. As far as like a IT professional, Then I got connected to entrepreneurship. Then I started trading. I'm an author. I'm a podcaster. Like I'm so many things, so many different things now because I've gotten in a room. So I want to know like how did getting in the room transition or help your life, or did it help your life?
Well, it definitely helped my life. I think so. I feel like there's two kind of circumstances I can talk to about getting in the room. So one of them was just working for the family I was nannying for in Georgia for the last year and a half, almost 2 years.
Okay.
And seeing a black family be so comfortable and live in like a huge home, which like coming from California, things do feel less obtainable because everything is very expensive. So I'm sure that the house that they were in, if I compared it to something in California for the same price, it would be a much smaller, worse area. Like it wouldn't translate the exact same. So that's one aspect, but just knowing that there's life outside of California, because for a long time I was like, I would never leave California. I just left. Like I
Right.
literally was like, you know what, I'm done, and I left. So seeing the black excellence that I was able to see, like the lady I nanny for, she's literally in Thailand right now. Like they're
Mm,
constantly out of the country, they're constantly on a vacation, they're constantly enjoying life. So just getting in that room and seeing like I can do all of this and I'm capable of the same things. That was definitely something that was inspiring, especially because if I'm not mistaken, by I think she probably had at least one kid by my age, like in her early 20s or mid 20s. So just knowing that like there's a good chance that I can be just as successful, that was definitely one thing that helped me kind of feel like I'm in the room, you know what I mean? And
right.
I possess what I need to possess to get where I'm trying to go. And then also being in the room with all of those social workers the other day, and some of them just being able to speak to me about like what I should do next, because I've been trying to figure out, should I go back for psychology? Should I go back for marriage and family therapy? I've been running from social work. I'm like, I'm not doing a degree in social work because I don't want to be a social worker.
Mm,
So I'm not going to do it. And talking to everybody in the room, everybody was like, go the psychology route and see what that takes you. Basically, that's what they were saying. And
mm,
I'm like, ooh, what you mean? And they're just like, that's not the way to go. Basically, is what they were saying. That's not the way to go. What you need to do is go social work route because it gives you more flexibility to go whichever direction you want to go. You
mm,
can still open your practice. You can still do plenty of things with the social work degree that you can also do with the psychology degree. But things that you can do with a psychology degree will not be the same as what you can do with a social work degree. Does that make sense?
that makes sense.
So it's like, I don't know. It's almost like having a passport. You can get into the club and you can go out the country. But if you use your ID, you can only get in the club. You can't go out the country with an ID. So
Ooh.
kind of like that. You know what I mean? So just getting in that room and realizing like, okay, this is what I need to do. And this is how they got to where they are. You know what I mean? And they're dressed nice, or they have acrylics, or they have human hair wigs. Like, I pay attention to details. And I know
Right.
some people are probably like, what is this girl talking about? I like human hair wigs. I like having my nails done. I like
Right.
wearing nice things. So seeing that they possess the things that I would like to have on a regular, this is a human hair wig, but my other wigs are synthetic. I
Mm,
don't want to have synthetic wigs for the rest of my life. I want human hair wigs.
right.
You know what I mean? So even some of the girls, their hair is they had their hair straightened, their real hair. And I, like I said, I pay attention to details. And being able to grow your hair as a black woman takes a specific amount of care. And I could tell that they were able to afford that care because of the things that they're doing. So realizing that, like I said, they possess the things that I want to possess for myself. It was the perfect room to be in, to be like, you know what, they're right, this is what I need to do. So now I have a meeting on November 6th to attend this graduate program meeting so I could see about getting into the program, because I think the program deadline to get in is like January.
Okay.
So perfect timing. And that was kind of like the piece that you said, like, has it changed you, or how has it changed you? Something like that. It did definitely change me, because I was like, okay, this is what I need to do, you know?
That's dope.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to going to this information session, figuring out what it is I need to do to get into the school program. If they offer me housing, I'll be back in California.
Mm,
So we'll see what happens. I'm
there you
excited to
go.
see what comes from it. But yeah, so it definitely is really important to get in the room, and not only get in the room and feel like you need to measure up, but like you
Ooh.
said, get in the room and sit back.
Yes.
You don't have to measure up all the time. You're there for a reason.
You is talking. Oh my God. You better go ahead. First of all, congratulations, because that's super dope. Um,
Thank you.
and second of all, you said something so powerful that I want people to really look at. You said that you was running from social work, but the thing that you was running from is the thing that you actually need to run to.
Yep,
And
exactly.
I believe um I believe what happens is that's how purpose is, right? If there is something that you feel like I'm consistently running from or I'm consistently trying to avoid, that is the thing that you need to run into. That's your purpose. That means that there is somebody that's connected to you that you need to impact in that area. That's somebody that you might need to just connect to that you probably would have never connected with if you keep running from it. And then there's
Hmm.
a whole transformation that is literally like on the other side of like, because how many times do we have this fear of something and we're like, you know what, I'm gonna avoid it, I'm gonna avoid it. But then once you finally face your fears, it's like, I was running from that. Are you
Yep.
serious? You know? So
True.
that's like so important that I wanted to point out because, yo, running from the things that we run from is actually the things we need to run into. So,
Yeah,
so
no,
dope.
you're definitely right about that. That kind of goes hand in hand with the Did you mention the topic starting over? Did we already say that?
I didn't, but go ahead. Go ahead. Do you think? Do you
Well,
think?
we said that our subject of the day is pretty much starting over, and I definitely can say, like, leaving Atlanta and coming to Texas or Houston, I was running from being alone,
Mm,
and like not just like, completely alone because like I went from living like with like roommates or friends or like on my own or whatever to going back to the basics of mom and dad. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
yeah, it hit me like a ton of bricks, humbled, stressed,
yeah,
sad, all of the things, multiple emotions, not all negative either. But
right,
coming to Houston, I didn't grow up in Houston. It's not like I got to come home and come back to California and be with my family. No, I'm home as in home is where the heart is. Like
right, right,
my mom is here, my stepdad's here, my grandparents are here. But there was no friends. There was no ex-boyfriend that I could circle back to or
right,
you know what I'm saying, no bestie down the street. It wasn't giving that. And I was
right,
definitely running from that loneliness or like, being alone or being solo and having time for myself. But I definitely like, especially even with you just saying like what you run from is kind of what you need to do. I'm still running from being by myself all the time, but I know that it's something I need to do.
yeah,
Spending time alone, even if it's not like an every single day thing, just prioritizing that time with self. Because when I did first get here and I was spending time alone, I was definitely getting closer to God, talking to God more, hearing from God more, um, directly and indirectly,
right,
and just just feeling His presence. I should say directly. I've never been able to directly hear from Him, but just knowing that like, oh, He's in this room. You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah,
As before, I didn't have that same cautiousness of like being able to feel it.
right,
So just like I don't know, I think that it is a big piece of truth of just like you can run as fast as you want to, but where you're supposed to be is going to find you eventually. And even right now, like there's all these boys that I want to talk to and all these boys that I'm like, oh, him or maybe it's him, but I already know God's about to be like, jokes on you, sis girl, it's none of them. And when you finally wake up
yeah,
and you're back by yourself, I hope that you prioritize this time with self, you know what I'm saying, to do what
right.
I need to do, because it's not, nothing's going to be successful if God doesn't let it. So I think
Ooh,
I need to settle into that, you know what I mean? But it's like it's just trying to find that balance of like losing control and giving God control and not worrying about it,
yes,
like you got your hands on the wheel and God's like, all right, you ready to scoot over and let me do my thing? And it's like, hold on, God, let me try to turn left. Turn left. It's
yes.
still the wrong turn. Well, let me try to go straight a little bit longer. He's like, okay, if that's what you want to do. Like, when are you gonna let your hands off the wheel?
Oh
But
man.
I'm really trying. We'll get there. We'll get there.
So it's so crazy that you say that, right? Because I was just having this conversation, literally like about an hour ago, literally, and
That's
wow, this I, this is dope, right? So I was just having this conversation, and basically understanding that, like, if you look at it and you're like, okay, you got person A that is doing all the things that they need to do to make $1 million, right? They're budgeting and all of this. They're doing great, got their credit going, amazing things that they're in the process, right? But they're not hitting it, right? They're not hitting the $1 million yet. Then you have people where they mess up, they are rude, they're nasty, they're obnoxious, they're self-centered, and become a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to point out to you guys is, and I had to be honest with myself. I said, I no longer want to chase entrepreneurship. I no longer want to chase success because at the end of the day, number one, success is what you make it, right? So that's a perspective thing of the person. And number two, like you said, no matter what you do, God will not make it a success if you don't want it to be a success. Like everybody's story is different. So you have to
Absolutely.
just say, I'm gonna own my story. I may be the struggling entrepreneur that's trying to make it, while they may not want entrepreneurship and they end up owning multiple businesses. That is not my lane. I have to focus on
Right.
mine. You feel me?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
and the last thing I want to say, and then we're gonna go back to starting over, is that when it comes to destination, um, oh man, this is so good. When it comes to destination, we have to release. We You have to stop focusing on just the destination. Like, okay, I set the matter of fact, I got you. I wrote this down just now, right? Because I be writing my notes. I don't play, man. I don't play,
I need to
right?
start being like
I'm let me tell you, I got a whole thing of notes, right? It says, which one is it? Which one is it? Oh, boom. It says, and I love God because God is really doing some things in my life. He's speaking to me, and I can't think of these things on my own. It is literally my connection with God. I'm not trying to force anybody or anything like that to say, hey, accept God. But what I'm saying is this is what he's done and what he's doing in my life. And one of the things he spoke to
Mhm.
me today, he said, and I had to write it down quickly. He said, I said, we set goals that are in alignment with our process, but we was never meant to hit the goal in the first place. Right? I'm gonna read that
Right.
again. We set goals that are in alignment with our process, but we was never meant to hit the goal. What does that mean? That means that God is going to allow you to. He understands the desires of your heart. So your desire your desire is I want to be a millionaire, right? But God wants you to be disciplined. So he says, okay, there's this journey of you going to be a millionaire that allows you to be disciplined. So I'm going to allow you to go through your journey of getting to be a millionaire, and you're going there now. You're a six-figure earner. Now you're a multiple six-figure earner, but you never hit $1 million. It's because in that process you become something. It was never the destination that you need to hold on to. It was the journey that was connected to the goal. So God allows you to have the goal, create the vision, so that way He can build the process for you to walk it through, if that makes sense.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense because, for example, something I've been trying to figure out for myself is I want to be a monetized YouTuber. Like, that's what I want so bad. And I could definitely say that along the pathway, I've built a good amount of discipline of being consistent. Within the last month, not as consistent as I would want to be, but I've been fairly consistent with YouTube for the last couple of years. And I think that part of me is always praying, like, God, do you not want me to be successful on YouTube? Like, what's tea, you know? But it might be exactly what you said, that he wants me to build a specific skill from doing YouTube, and that he may not allow YouTube to be my income. And I have to be okay with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then also just understanding that while he's letting me build the skill through my own goal, he has a goal for me as well. And
Whew.
until I kind of line up with that goal and his will, it's not really going to look like what I done planned out, is what I'm trying to say. And fortunately, like you said, he's allowing me to play the game that I want to play in order to build the skill that I need to be able to go where he's sending me.
Yeah.
And obviously where he's sending me is going to be better than where I would send myself. And I understand that. Does that stop me from trying to control everything? Not at all. But like I said, we'll get there. You know what I mean? But I definitely feel like what you said really aligns with my life right now in general, of just like, I didn't expect to be a case manager right now, which is what I'm doing, which is social work. I didn't expect that to come. I wanted to go from my bachelor's degree to my master's degree to my doctorate degree. But after my bachelor's degree, I was like, well, I need to be able to go to school and actually focus on school and not be focused on, like, I used to be in class, sleep, eating, or budgeting, like literally writing my
Mm,
budget out. And then after all that stuff is settled, then I will be taking notes. Then I'll be paying attention to when the next test is. Then I'll be doing da da da. So, just trying to realize that the plan that I've created, even the plan when I was like, what, 16 or 12, 13, like, oh, I'm going to be married by 24. Girl, what husband? What husband? Because what boyfriend? What boyfriend? Let me know. Like, no, it's not
oh
happening. You know
man.
what I mean? 25th birthday is in March. 24 marriage is not happening. Like, we can hang that up right now.
Right.
So just kind of realizing, like, all these little plans that you make, it's not.
Yeah.
It's laughable to God, probably. He's like, girl, if you knew you were actually going, you would let this stuff go. But
Literally.
but no, I definitely agree with what you said, of just like the whole destination thing and the goals along the way, maybe checking off checkpoints, but you don't even know which race you're about to win at this point.
Literally. Like, to be transparent, right? One of my goals when I was super young was I wanted to find the love of my life and I wanted to be with her for the rest of my life, right? I'm just a lover boy. I'm a hopeless romantic. Like, that's just me. And
There's only like two of you in the world, just so you know.
literally, we a rare breed.
Yes, definitely.
But so I had that goal for myself, and um I told myself, I said, cool, I want it so badly that I'm not going to jump into relationships when I'm young, right? Like, I want to mold, and I want myself to be molded and shaped and understand a lot more about what it takes to be in a relationship, and then I'm gonna get in one. So my first relationship wasn't until I got to be 18, right? And I was so, let me tell you, I thought I had it all figured out. I could have sworn she was the love of my life. I was so heavy into this girl. I'm just like, we was locked in. I'm like, yo, I don't care what she did. I don't care how she looked to y'all. We locked in. That was wifey right there. Like, soon I'm gonna marry
Period.
her. But the whole idea, because, and I also believe that God is so powerful, or God is so perfect, that why can't I believe that I can be in one relationship for the rest of my life? So I was so
Right.
locked in on that, but not understanding that there's a process that I needed to go through. So instead of us just just having one relationship and then it being the end all be all, and we're married and kids and all of that good stuff. No, it is,
Absolutely right.
yeah, like you have to what's the word? You have to develop personally. And you're not going to, in and this is not everybody, but in many of us, we're not going to develop all the way in one relationship.
Right.
It's gonna take, okay, this relationship, I learned this. Then you go into the next one, and then you realize, dag, I'm super controlling. So then you realize that, then you change that. Then it's like, yo, I joke a lot in this
Dang, I
one.
didn't know I was this codependent. I didn't
Right.
know I was attached. What is
Literally.
going on?
Literally. That is so much facts, man. So it's really about the growth. It's what Sarah Jake said. She said you have to change from um what do I have to do to who do I need to become.
I like
Like
that.
that is so powerful.
That's a tough one. Ooh.
Yeah.
What do I have to do to who do I have to become? Because you gotta be able to walk that talk.
Yes.
And Lord knows, I'm like, I literally made a list yesterday of like, I like Googled first. I was just like, what are ways I can get to know myself? And then like, I wasn't even reading the answers. I was like, I know what I need to do. And I started writing down this list. So I have this list of stuff of just like things that I want to do, which is like scrapbooking, making waist beads, like just doing stuff that are like activities I can do by myself,
Hmm.
just to hopefully learn new things about myself, because it is a big thing that I'm trying to figure out now of like, who is it that I am, and
Hmm.
like you said, who do I need to become, or what does me at my best look like to me, and I
Right.
guess really to God. That would probably be a great piece to add. I need to add that. Just so that I can be in alignment and so I can get what I'm supposed to have, because like I said, nothing's gonna go through if God doesn't want it to.
Right.
So
Yep.
yeah, I don't know. That's definitely a good piece. Who do I need to become?
It's so powerful because like so I'm a not a not a information hoarder, but I'm a person that I value information, right? So I'm learning all these different things so that way I can be able to give it back. And I'm noticed in my
Right.
car, as a Lyft driver, I'm telling people, how to create their LLCs and where to go and all these different things. And I was focused so much on entrepreneurship that God was trying to show me something, right? And he was like, you're chasing after this information, and it's not really about what you have to do. Because I'm going to expose you to everything that you need to do, but I'm going to show you why you're still not going to do it. And it was because my focus was entrepreneurship, but, and hear me, entrepreneur, right? This is so critical. You have to shift your focus from just being an entrepreneur to being an actual CEO. That is two different things. Oh my
Yeah.
God. When I realized
Because
that,
you
I
kind of are the CEO as the entrepreneur if you really think about it.
say that again.
I feel like as the entrepreneur, you kind of are the CEO. And if you're not thinking like it, you're just going to act like an employee. You might as well be an employee.
It's not only that. It's like, okay, as a as an entrepreneur, you are focused on doing multiple things, right? Multiple streams of income and all these different things. But you're not really focused on actually building what you need to build, right? So when it comes to being a CEO, you have things like SOPs, right? You have things like inventory. You have things like what are my standard procedures? You have things like what are my how many people I need to hire and all of that. As an entrepreneur, you're
Right.
like, okay, there's all these different streams of income. I'm about to be an author. I'm about to be a podcaster. I'm about to be, a life coach. I'm about to create courses. But it's not the fact that you have to learn how to steward over what you have properly. And as a
Right.
CEO, that's where your focus as an entrepreneur comes into play when when you put on your CEO hat. Like, yeah, okay, you got multiple businesses, but how many of your businesses is actually flourishing?
Right.
So that be instead of what I had to do, I realized that who I needed to become was so powerful,
Right.
man. We over here talking
That's
about everything else except starting over.
We'll get there.
This is a really good conversation. But this is the perfect segue. Um, I want to ask you this question. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the words starting over?
Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind for me, which is probably because I've done it twice now, is leaving where you are.
Oh,
First thing that comes to mind for me.
my back hurt. Hold on. Please elaborate. Oh man.
So like I don't know. I think even now sometimes like because I've when I first started over, it was me moving from California to Georgia, which is straight across the country, really.
Right.
um and it's completely different than each other. And I didn't call it starting over when I did it,
Mm-hmm.
but over time, like while I was there and stuff, and I wasn't making friends, or just certain things were happening. I moved there with someone who I called my best friend at that time, and within the first like 4 months, she had already had this guy, and they were expecting a child within that first 4 months. And
Damn.
she kind of moved on with life. We still lived together, but she kind of moved on with life. Like, this is her start over. That
Right.
was her new life. And, she had came out of a relationship, moved to Georgia with me, and then a couple months later, boom, she started her next life. And that was her start over, if you will. My start over was rocky, in my opinion, because I didn't realize I was starting over. I just thought
Mm.
me and my best friend are about to take Georgia and this is gonna be fun and da 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 da. But when I got dropped, and it was like, oh shit, like what's going on? I didn't really know what to do, but um that was my first opportunity to start over and just kind of see who I wanted to be, see who I was, and things like that. And like even when I talked to my best friend from home, she's like, "Man, you've calmed down so much." Like
Mm.
I used to be way more of a firecracker, way more triggered by everything. And I don't know, I think just changing my setting of not having to think about what the people who have known me my whole life think of me, or stuff pertaining to that, it gave me a real chance to start over. And once patterns started to repeat themselves and things started to get worse, I kind of started over again, so I ended up
Mm.
starting over, coming here to Texas. And it gave me a new setting, a new environment to decide who I want to be, decide how I want to do it, and not having to think about, like I said, those outside factors. I get to go back into the world again of people who never met me before. And of course, I'm sure there's people I've met before who have moved to Houston that I'll run into, but I haven't really ran into people I've known prior,
Mm.
and it's just giving me that, like I said, opportunity to start over
Right.
and just see like who is Mariah from Houston versus
Right.
Mariah from Atlanta versus Mariah from California,
Mm.
and it can honestly be seen as three different people.
Right.
And I don't know, I think that's just really what I think of when starting over, like I said, of just changing that environment and seeing like, all right, I can like this girl had kind of put it this way of like every time you start over or not get knocked down, you're rebuilding that same tower with the blocks you already had and the blocks that you've just got from
Mm.
those lessons and things that you experienced. So just building Mariah to be better and better every time. I don't know if how long I'll be in Texas. I don't know if I'm going to be moving back to California at some point or if I'm going to move to a whole different state, but I know when I do, I'll have the some of the bad parts that I don't want to add back to the building. I won't put those back. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
We'll leave those off to the side. And even just realizing some of the bricks that you've thrown out that you might have needed to keep, or
Mm.
some of the bricks you've been holding on to that you should have been dropped.
Right.
But that's kind of been my relationship with starting over,
Mm.
of just literally upping and
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. I feel that because I'm similar to you, right? I'm from New York, right? And I moved from New York to Houston, and then I went from
Oh,
Houston to Vegas. So it's been like a huge transition of like for me, New York ran its course where it's like I can make it in New York and it's great, it's cool, but I'm no longer growing as who I am. Like I need to expand my territory. I need to reach new faces and new challenges, and I wasn't getting that in New York. So I took the leap of
right.
faith. I had an ex-girlfriend during the time. I ended up moving with her in Houston, and things didn't work out with us in Houston. So, long story short, I ended up on the street, and that was a challenge, right? When I tell you, it was, oh my God, I would have never
Yes, sir.
expected, and it's not like I could just it's not like I can just go and go to my friend's house or something like that. You know what? I'll go to my mom's house or something. I have no family in Houston. So
Right.
even though I've been there multiple times, which made me comfortable, but the fact that I didn't have anybody there was super challenging. And then I got on my feet. I was doing amazing. I was traveling all throughout Texas, and then I got to a place where a business opportunity came, and I said, "Boom!" Literally the next day, I'm in Vegas. So um, I want to ask you, like, when in your transition of starting over, like now you're in Houston, do you think that number one, do you like who you've become since you've been in Houston? And let's start with there, right? Do you feel like you like the Mariah now of Houston, or you feel like you need to revert back to the Cali or the what is it, the Georgia?
I think there's parts of the Houston Mariah that I like, and there's parts that I'm like, where did this come from?
Mm,
Um, I think that, for example, when I was in Georgia, I would go out by myself with the quickness. And I think that the pressure to go out by myself was coming from within my apartment because, like I said, I would wake up, hear my roommate talking to her man, and knowing that, yeah, I've had this person in my life since middle school, but she's not going to go out with me because she's dick whipped.
right,
So it's not going to happen. So I knew I have to go out by myself.
right,
And I don't have, a homegirl to call. At that point I hadn't met Jazmin yet. So it was what it was. You know what I mean? There was no real option there. So when I got to Texas, I felt like I didn't like I still went out by myself, but it was just a different pressure of like when I would get there, I'm like, I hope I meet some friends. I hope I meet people I can go out with. And I just kind of had to shake that off and just be like, girl, you're remember, you don't mind going out by yourself.
yeah,
And like even when I was in college in California, I would go out by myself from time to time. Because I don't know, I think that, which is a pattern I've noticed with myself, is I do have a very difficult time with relationships, like
mm,
friendships and relationships in general. And one of the pieces to that I had to kind of realize recently was just that it's not to say that these people they weren't bad. I'm not going to say that these people were bad, but the expectation I was putting on them as friends was not unobtainable or wrong, but they were not capable of giving it to me. And
mm,
it was hard for me to digest that, and I felt entitled to them being the type of friend that I am. You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah,
So I lost a lot of friendships expecting them to show up like how I would show up, and
right,
they weren't. Not at all. And
mm,
it made me lose a lot of friendships. So I didn't really have um great friendships throughout college. I had a few good friendships in high school, but relationships, and I don't mean with men, I mean with my homegirls or just friends in general. I don't feel like I've had great relationships. And so I just went off on that tangent. But so yeah, so kind of going out by myself has always been a thing. And then like going out and seeking friends kind of became a new thing where like I'm not saying when I go out I should be like, nope, not meeting nobody, but I also shouldn't make that the priority of why I went out.
correct,
Just
yeah,
go out and have fun, go out and enjoy yourself, go out and see what life brings to you. So I
absolutely,
definitely want to bring that piece back to myself. Um and I also just think that being a little bit more aware of like my moods has been a little bit better. Not to say that my moods have been better, but just being like, ooh, you're not in the greatest mood, because now I live with my parents again where you can't talk to them any old kind of way. You know what I mean? You
right,
can't just walk in the house and go upstairs to your room without speaking, because that's disrespectful,
right,
especially if it's your family. Now, if it's your roommates, they don't really care one way or the other. So it wouldn't be a big deal. But here, I don't feel like that same liberty is there because, like I said, it would be viewed as, did you speak? Or, what's her problem? Or whatever the case is. So just being a little bit aware of like, you're not in the best mood or, things like that. I think that those are some of the things. But I think it's a split down the middle, of do I like the Texas version of myself? Some parts yes, and some parts no.
mm,
But I've been saying this whole time we are working on
yeah.
it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're gonna move on to our next segment. It starts with this question, which is I want to say my signature question that I ask people all the time. Is do I have your permission to make you uncomfortable?
Yes, you do. Good luck doing that because I'm an open book.
Bet. So, the question I have for you, just hearing a lot of the things that you're saying, I want to ask you, and it's a really simple question: is how are you, Mariah, feeling like for real? Because I know that I know you've, seen yourself in several different ways. I know you are maybe even longing for some things, or you want some things to get better. And then I remember you saying that just because it looks good on Instagram doesn't mean that it's your reality. So I want to know, what is Mariah's reality right now? How is she feeling? Like how is she mentally and spiritually right now?
I think that mentally and spiritually, I feel like I'm like I said, the whole pattern thing.
Mm,
I feel like I'm just in this cycle of just like doing the same things, even if I'm not doing it intentionally or like in a present mind doing the same things, but I'm doing the same things where I just like I'll be good by myself, I'll be doing whatever I'm doing, I'll get distracted by one guy, whatever, for whatever reason, that will sting, hurt, burn, cancel, whatever you want to call it. And instead of being like, okay, that didn't work, let's return to self,
mm,
focus, read the Bible, work out, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, who's next?
okay.
Because I'm not about to be sitting up here sad by myself and blah, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, which is not a healthy cycle
Yeah.
at all. So I think that one thing for me, spiritually, mentally, physically, I have a hard time being alone. Um, and it wasn't something I could acknowledge before. I didn't think I was that girl. And I remember seeing one of my friends online, and I'll be like, damn, she always has a boyfriend.
Right.
I was like, she always has a boyfriend. And it'll be like 1 month goes by, so and so, I love you so much, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, who is this guy? This is not the same guy from 2 months ago.
Right.
And like, it wasn't even in a judgmental way. It was just something I noticed. So when I kind of noticed that, I won't say I'm that girl who's always in a relationship, but I always have some sort of love interest or
Right.
somebody that I'm interested in being in a relationship with, or you know what I mean, someone that I like or whatever the case. And like when I first got here, I downloaded the app, so I'm on Tinder, I'm on Bumble Friends, which like Bumble Friends was literally for friends, but Tinder was for boys.
Right.
So I'm on Tinder and like I'm meeting all these people and stuff, and just realizing that like you're going through the same cycle that you've been going through of just like being in pain and replacing the person. Like, and it's not,
Mm.
I'm saying, it's not helpful. And when I did first get here and things were slower, money was slower, time was definitely slower because I didn't have a job or anything. I was spending more time with God and I was spending more time with self. And I feel like some of those things were helpful. And then like as soon as I got the chance to have gas money to get out, I was out. And I've been out every weekend. I've
Mm.
been out since I started working my full-time job. So just realizing that mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I don't like being alone.
Mm.
That's something I need to work on. And then also just realizing that like I have a lot more toxic traits than I was willing to admit or
Mm.
recognize.
Okay.
Um and I've always believed in therapy. I've been in therapy on and off for years now. But it gets expensive.
It does.
And with all the moving around, money has been tight. So
Right.
I haven't been able to be in therapy as consistently as I would want to, but definitely realizing that therapy is not just a want now, it's literally a need. Like you're gonna
Right.
need professional help with paired with God, and different like spiritual advisors or mentors, if you will, to help you get to where you need to be and how you said kind of become who you need to become.
Right.
Um and then also just knowing that I kind of have a tendency to try to rush my healing, or to be like, I feel better. And it's
Right.
like, do you feel better though?
Yeah.
Or do you just want to feel better and you're about to test if you feel better by doing something and realizing you still have the same problem? Like, this is probably like, I won't say TMI, but basically, since I had gotten here, I hadn't been sexually active with anybody because it was just like, I'm chilling, I just
Right.
got here, whatever. I finally crossed that line and realizing you still have attachment problems. Like,
Mm.
those attachment problems haven't gone anywhere. It's just
Right.
that you haven't been doing anything
Wow.
to feel attached. So now realizing like I still have the same problem,
Right.
it's like,
So
how are we going to solve this?
so let me ask you a question, right? As going back to the not being afraid of being alone. do you feel like you are running from something within yourself, like that you may face if you are alone? And what is that if there is?
That's a really good question. What is it that I'm running from? I don't know. I think that for me, I think it has a lot to do with childhood. I would never had to be alone.
Mm,
I grew up with two older sisters, and then it's me, and then I have my cousin who's like a sister as well, and then it's my brother. So to be alone was never really a thing.
mm,
And um the times that I would be alone, it was just like I said, it wasn't on purpose, or it wasn't desirable. It might be because I got into an argument with the sister, or
right,
I feel left out,
right,
or something happened to where I have to be alone. So it was never a comfortable thing. So like there's like those only child people who are like, oh, I don't have no problem being alone. I bet you don't, because you never had to. You were never required to share your space. It was never something that was mandatory. So
right,
because it felt so mandatory to be with somebody all the time, even if I was like, I want to go over there, I want to go to the bathroom, your sister's going with you, because
ooh,
it wasn't safe to be by yourself or whatever. So it became a crutch almost, which like I don't blame anybody, because we grew up as siblings. So what do you expect,
yeah,
But now being a grown adult and feeling that same pressure of like not wanting to be alone, or you're so used to always having, like, even in school people will call me little Mia, little Milani. I didn't have my own name, I had my sister's name. So
wow,
becoming yourself and having to be an individual was never a reality. Even for a long time into college, I was like, oh, I have sisters. Like, there's literally people I went to college with that have never met my sisters in person, but they follow them because I was like, oh, follow my sister since social media. She does
right,
YouTube, blah, 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 blah. Because I was so used to that being my identity. And I
mm,
remember one day I had posted a story on Instagram, and it was like a collage. It was me, a picture of my two sisters. And I remember I posted it and I was like, which one do I look like? And I remember one of my older cousins, she's like 35. I think she's probably 40 now, but she just looks so young. I keep telling 30 something. But she's an older cousin. I'm
okay,
24. She's older. And I remember she commented on the story and she said, you look like yourself. And
ooh,
that speaks to me now. You know what I mean? Because she was trying to get me to realize you are similar to your sisters, but you're Mariah.
yes,
They're Milani, they're Mia, but you're
yes,
Mariah. You're your own person, and you don't look like them. You look like them because they're your sisters, but you don't have to feel like to connect to one of them to be something. You know what I mean?
right,
And even within my relationship with my sisters, that can't get too deep into that, but that has been rocky within itself. So I lost my sense of identity.
mm,
And I think that is part of what I'm running from, of just like, well, who am I?
right,
Like
oh,
I know who I am in some categories, and in other categories, I'm just like, I'm just vibing. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So
yeah,
I think when I really do put thought into that, I feel like it kind of has to do with childhood and facing the facing the mirror of just like, who are you
yeah,
if you had no sister, if you
oh
had no
man,
brother, if you
yeah.
weren't part of this trio, like who would you be?
Oh man, that was so good. Like, oh man, you about to make me preach, girl. Don't do this. Oh my God. So look, right? Um, and I feel this heavy in my spirit. I want you to know, number one, date yourself. Like, don't include anybody in that space when you are dating yourself. And dating yourself is, this lady said it so perfectly. She said dating is nothing more than collecting information, right? So consistently every day, like spend 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, however long you want to do it, and just date yourself. Like, in all aspects. I think that's so important because if you don't learn these things about yourself, you'll end up living in other people's shadows, right? And you don't want that because obviously God has shown you that there's an identity within you that He wants you to see. Um, Number two, I need you to know I have never met you in person. This is our second conversation, and I need you to know that you are a dope person. Like, you are so incredible. I'm so grateful that you are connected to Jazz because now I'm connected to you as well. Um, I just need you to know you're amazing. Like I really need you to know that. Like no matter like without the makeup, without the oh I gotta go out and look good or the club or whatever, without all of that stuff, Mariah is freaking amazing.
Thank
Like I
you.
want you to know that because it's cool to big up and help everybody else, but you become useless if you don't make yourself useful. And in order to make yourself useful, you have to know what is valuable in Mariah. Otherwise, most people, right? Some people might see it, but most people won't see the value in you if you don't see it, because then you'll consistently diminish your own value. So big up yourself, right? Don't be like, oh, I don't want to be cocky. Nah, be if you gotta be cocky. You know, be confident. Let that ring because Mariah is amazing. Mariah is beautiful. Mariah is talented. Mariah is all that in a bag of chips and some Snickers at that. You feel me? So
No, I appreciate that for sure.
I had to say that. And this has been an amazing episode. Like you have no idea. Like I'm ready to do more episodes with you, and I'm ready to do more episodes with a lot of other people. Um, but our last segment before we really close out, and I'm kind of gonna go off the whim. The last segment is what's your perspective on, right? So I have to think of a random topic. Is it something random that you want to just give your perspective on? Like just something like, you know what, my perspective matters, so I gotta give y'all this. Like what is that thing?
I actually do have
Uh
something.
oh.
So the other day I saw this post that it was like coming out week or gay week or something like that in LAUSD. They had this thing
Oh my
where they
god.
spent like a week getting into like the LGBTQ, or I don't even know the details of it. And I remember my friend was kind of posting about it and just being like, the people who are outraged hate gay people and you need to work on yourself and blah 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 blah
Right.
blah blah blah. And that's great and everything. I don't have a problem with gay people. I don't have a problem with trans people. I don't really have a problem with people. As long as you're not hurting nobody, baby, do your thing.
Right.
But this was my issue with the whole LGBTQ thing, a week long, whatever. So they were doing this in elementary school, number one. Number
Yeah.
two, they're talking about gay, lesbian, whatever. And my thing that is bothering me is just that we we reinforce this idea of relationships and couples on children for so long in their life, which like when you talk about the what am I running from, I
Mm,
feel like it also comes from that.
right.
Of just reinforcing this idea of relationship, reinforcing this idea of being a couple, being a pair. It
Right.
doesn't matter if you like guys or girls. In elementary school, the last thing on your mind should be a romantic relationship.
Right.
And I get it. People in elementary school already know if they're gay or straight or bi or lesbian, whatever, and that's not a problem. But at the end of the day, nobody needs to be prioritizing being a pair, a couple. I don't care who you're dating. I don't feel like there should be couples week, gay week, anything like that in elementary school because
Yeah.
it reinforces this idea of, excuse me, it reinforces this idea of not knowing yourself,
Right.
not loving yourself. They should be teaching kids how to be individuals. They should be teaching kids how to heal from relationships, if anything. Like, you know what I mean? They're like, even think about how often it's like, oh, you don't have a mom and a dad, like to other kids. Being
Right.
single is a thing.
Yeah.
But we're so conditioned to see couples in relationships that, and like I know there's some people who have beat that, and good for them. I haven't beat that. Every time I'm out and I see couples, I'm like, oh,
Right.
like, and it's sometimes like, oh, I can't wait for my turn. Sometimes it's in awe of where is mine. Sometimes
Right.
it's in awe of like, will I come? But there's this idea of being a couple, being a relationship, and I just think that they need to stop reinforcing it. I don't care if we're talking about gay couples or straight couples. Can we just let the kids be kids and let them explore themselves of who they are and what they like and what they don't like and all of that stuff before we start shoving this idea of you need to be a pair, you need to be a pair, you need to be a couple, you need to be with someone. like we can just save that for high school and maybe even late middle school. I don't know, 8th grade. People, like most
Yeah.
people I knew, couldn't date until 16 to 18.
Right.
So why are we forcing this idea of relationship and couples in elementary school?
See.
Like, let's take the LGBTQ out of it. That's not the problem. The problem is reinforcing relationships. I think that we need to stop doing that to
Yeah.
kids. We need to stop.
That is so critical because it forces an identity that you as a kid has not fully tapped into yet. Like you don't really know who you are as a kid. You're still learning, okay, I'm a girl, or I'm a boy, or I'm a this, I'm a that. You're still learning these things. So it's like, yeah, we gotta do better as a community, as a freaking, like you just touched on something that it could be a whole nother episode. But that was dope. I definitely love your perspective because it's so true. And we have to be able to gather and dominate our identity. Take that out of school so that way you can get the actual learning in the schools. I think that's important.
Like,
Um,
the stats on kids who can read at their grade level is so low. Most kids are reading like 3 to 5 grades below their grade level, if
right.
not 5 to 6. Math, I know that they were saying the 8th graders, like one of the last stats I heard was like 8th graders were testing at like a 3rd grade math level, I want to say, or something like that. So we're focusing on relationships and these babies can't read and do math.
Mm-mm-mm.
Make it make sense.
Make it make
That's ridiculous.
sense. Damn,
So
that is deep. That's deep. Jeez. Yo, Mariah, let me tell you, you have this episode probably gonna get like 100K, 500K. Like this probably gonna be the podcast, the episode that's gonna get us monetized.
yay! I'll
Literally,
pray for it. I really do.
because this was such a powerful. Like I really want to go in more, but just for the sake of time, we gotta end here for sure. But I appreciate you for stopping by and pouring out your value and your transparency. Like this is what we're all about. And I pray that somebody that's viewing this, whether it's on YouTube or on any other streaming platforms, I pray that you number one understand that this is a personal growth podcast and that we want to be vulnerable to be able to allow you to grow. I think that's really my focus is I want to encourage growth. I want to encourage personal growth so that way we are no longer stagnant and we no longer have the excuse of, hey, this person don't know what I went through, or this person is not giving me the information. Like we're giving you all that in one. So, definitely I appreciate you. Uh, Two things I gotta ask for you, right? Number one is your final remarks, or closing statement, or even a quote that you would like, and let everybody know where they can find you on your websites and your social medias.
Well, one thing I'll say is just don't worry about hiding from the world, or I know everyone's really big on like you can't tell your business because people are going to use it against you and blah 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 blah. People will use anything against you. So I'm not saying sing your story to everybody, but don't be ashamed of what you are, what you aren't, things you're experiencing. Like as you saw this whole podcast, I've been very transparent because there is no shame in my game. Like I am who I am, and as I continue to grow and develop to be more, or more sharp, more better, whatever you want to call it, you'll see that transition, and I hope it inspires someone. And of course, there'll be enough people who want to pick at me or call me names or whatever, but I'm not doing it for those people. And you have to realize people are going to say whatever. So don't hide from who you are and where you are at in your journey, because that's just where you are. Just be honest. And, I'm not saying get on a podcast and talk to thousands of people if that's not what you're comfortable with, but
Right,
talk to somebody, express it to somebody, be comfortable. I mean, get you a journal, whatever the case is, be real with yourself because that's what's going to get you somewhere. That's what's getting me somewhere. I definitely can say that. And then where you guys can find me on Instagram, it's Mariah Murray.318. So MariahMurray.318. My YouTube channel is Raya's Rocky Road, RIAH. So Raya's Rocky Road. And pretty much from Instagram and YouTube, you will find everything else about me. So Just check those things out. I definitely want to start becoming a little bit more active on Facebook, being that you can write like a whole status and everything. And then like Twitter or X, I don't really use it for being meaningful.
Right.
So those aren't really the apps to follow me on. But of course, I mean, I retweet stuff and I put random thoughts on there from time to time. So you can check me out there. But like I said, once you find Instagram or YouTube, you found everything. So
Gotcha.
hope you guys enjoyed me. I definitely had a great time. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you so much. We cannot close it out no better than that. Family, your perspective matters. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.